the dirtiest and most despicable father in the history of mankind. Imprisoned his daughter underground for more than 24 years. And took turns assaulting her to beget 7 children from her. To become the most evil parent in history. A monster in the form of a human being, a demon in the form of humans, but the devil himself will not think of anything to do or whisper about this terrifying evil. More evil than you see in horror movies and cinema, but when the filmmakers turned this story into a movie, he removed and deleted terrifying details that viewers will not be able to watch. He imprisoned his innocent child daughter in an underground basement with sound insulation and soundproofing. He rapes her thousands and thousands of times to give birth to 7 children, and her children become 7 of her brothers for 24 years. Imagine living this period in a room that is almost dark underground, afraid, and sleeping, eating, urinating, giving birth and raising her children in this room, raping in front of her children to punish her and punish them. In 2008, the world is shaken to discover a terrifying and heinous crime beyond the imagination of the Annunciation when the police discovered a young woman in prison named Elizabeth, in the basement of her house 24 years ago, and the person who imprisoned her was her father, Joseph Ritson, a 75-year-old old man. If you see him on the street, you will rush to help him and consider him as your grandfather. But this grandfather is a rapist and a terrifying monster who raped his daughter at the age of 24, giving birth to 7 children. Beget became his children and grandchildren. At the same time, Joseph was a rich person and bought a 2-story house and an underground basement. Then he modified the cellar to turn it into a secret vault with a door and secret corridors, and one day he asked his daughter Elizabeth to help him install an iron door in the basement of the secret house, and when he finished he took her and locked her in the basement. That turned him into a secret underground cell insulating sound and light and anything. The basement was complicated with several rooms and corridors and separated it from the secret main door. It became impossible for Elizabeth to set off, and the greatest nightmare began when her father Joseph began to brutally rape her. She was screaming and no one heard her. Days after his confinement, her mother began to worry about her and reported to the police, and never doubted Joseph's husband, whom she saw as an exemplary husband and a wonderful affectionate father. Joseph forced Elizabeth to write a letter in her handwriting saying that she escaped to join a religious sect in another state only for the police to stop looking for her. Years pass and Joseph goes down every 2 days to the basement to rape his daughter until he gives birth to 7 children, and one of them dies due to poor coverage, and if Elizabeth or her children do something wrong and hit them, what cuts off water, food and electricity for long days, the sons of Elizabeth and became tall, but the basement had a low ceiling not exceeding 150 centimeters, and this caused the curvature of the spine of all his sons. Joseph arrested one day. Elizabeth's elder daughter Christine fell ill and was about to die. Joseph took her to the hospital. Then the doctors began to have doubts because of Christine's very bad condition and the lack of her identity. Then things began to fall apart. When the monster began to get confused and allowed Elizabeth to visit her daughter, she got up and called for help from the doctors amid screams, and the police went to his house. Then they found the children with a bent back, suffering from severe weakness and their eyes resembling the eyes of a cat due to the lack of light. When the monster began to get confused and allowed Elizabeth to visit her daughter, she got up and asked for help from the doctors amid screams, and the police went to his house, and then they found the children with a bent back, suffering from severe weakness and their eyes resembling the eyes of a cat because of the lack of light. So they discovered something tragic and sad, so Joseph was arrested to be sentenced to life imprisonment. In a mental institution, the children are taken to the hospital, and the countries give all of them new names and find them a home to start a new life in a remote place that no one knows about them. They were suffering more than 20 years.